Hello, welcome back. Who doesn't know the jingle by now? No. I'm Aladino, and together with my wife Maya, we are rebuilding a Cape George Cutter 36. Last week we mostly worked on the interior. I built some knees to support the tops that will come onto the backrests. I incorporated fishing rod holders, which was fun. And I also did some work in the galley area, like a chart table seat and some parts along those lines. This week we will continue work inside the boat. Now, our new boat isn't that huge. We chose a size that we think is very comfortable and yet also very manageable. We really want to incorporate and make the best use of the storage that we have in the salon. The galley is not too spacious, so we really want to prioritize and make good use of storage behind the settees as well. And in order to do that, we decided to include some shelves behind the backrests on starboard. That is because it is quite a narrow space. So unless you just pile things up in there, it's pretty difficult. It's like a triangle where you gain more space towards the top. So by putting a shelf in there, you can really make better use of the space.
So we're going to start making these shelves by making cleats, which I've never done, so Aladino's going to show me how he does it. But basically just making little sticks that will support the shelves and that will get screwed into the partitions. Alaska yellow cedar?
We're running out of it.
Are we?
Yeah. So yeah, let's go with something like this. Bring it into the boat, measure how long, more or less. Some parts need to be angled, because there is fiberglass tabbing, so that it can sit against the hull a little nicer. First we grab the angle taker.
Bevel?
Oh, is that a bevel?
Maybe.
Oh.
That seems right.
Anyway, here we have it already, so I take the angle of this, and that's the angle I want the shelves to be in. So I want the shelf to be at mid-height of the opening, which I already marked here. And now I'll trace the same angle onto this line. The cleat goes underneath, and then we put the board on top. And we can also chop this one off square, but we could also just give it this 10.5 degree angle.
Okay. So I have never built shelves into a boat before, but there's a first time for everything. I did not know how to do any of this stuff before we took this refit on, so you've got to start somewhere. But this didn't seem too difficult, so I kind of was thinking that it would be done in a day. Okay, so now I go up and take the measurement on this one.
Sure, you can do that, yeah. And I'll just sand the edges a little bit. I always do that. I always just like to, whenever after using the jigsaw or the miter saw or whatever saw, quick pass with sandpaper. And I love this spool of Sia sandpaper. That's what every workshop needs.
And I know every time you cut sandpaper with scissors, we get comments from people being like, it'll dull the scissors.
What use are scissors if not for cutting things?
Exactly.
Yeah. Just quick pass on all edges, and it makes everything smoother when you run your fingers into the cabinet, or while you're working on it, you don't get splinters in your fingers.
Yeah.
It's just another step towards a nice finished result. Now we drill a few holes.
Okay.
Shall I? Do you want to do it?
How do you know where you're drilling them?
Oh,
anywhere?
Just spaced evenly and anywhere.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, I can do that. So I think at the end this went reasonably well. The cleats are made and I think that they will support some shelves, no problem, which is really their main purpose. All right, cleats are on. Are they a work of art? No, but they don't have to be, and all of these things will get painted all together, the shelves included, so it's all gonna be one nice uniform color at the end, and they'll support some canned food. So the next step is to actually make some templates to cut out the pieces of plywood for the shelves themselves, and this was the easier... I thought this was going to be the easier part, because I've made a lot of templates, but these templates had a few little intricacies about them. I hit a roadblock yesterday, but back at it with fresh mind this morning. I made the template for the middle shelf, and I started on the template for this shelf, but then Deanie pointed out that because of this teak trim piece, and because we want the shelves to sort of support the backrest, be an added layer of support there, then we want these shelves to be flush with this and to support the backrest, which means that they have to do like a little cutout thing here. I just need to make that happen with the template. So yesterday I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to do this, but today I'm just going to have to tackle it. I didn't know how to do any of this before this refit, so it can happen. But one thing, once I finish these templates, is that we don't have enough offcuts for making the shelves, and it would be nice to just use some offcuts rather than a whole fresh sheet of plywood. And so Aladino has actually decided to take the opportunity to cut out a big piece of the deck which is going to close up our cockpit. And that way he can use the big sheet for what it's needed for, and then I can take the offcuts for these smaller pieces. So let's go have a look at what Aladino's doing, and then I'll continue here. All right, so template for the cockpit. This is huge, because this is one of those like essential things that has to happen before we leave the shed, kind of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a big prioritization.
Yeah.
A big priority.
Yeah.
That's it. Nice, another piece of deck. This is super exciting. Big pieces of offcuts now from this. Maya is continuing with the shelves inside.
All right, I did it. We have shelves. Yay, they're all installed. A simple task, but yeah, I'm slowly getting better at it. Slowly getting there. So naturally, a project that I thought was gonna take a day, it of course took 2 days, but overall that's still not too bad, and I kind of have a new skill now, so that's good. We have some shelves, they will support food, and that's the whole idea behind this project.
Meanwhile, I began working on our fridge. I'm starting to think about the fridge.
Okay. What are your starting thoughts?
Well, this is the cabinet we got to work in, and I think I'm starting from the ground up, which is by putting in a bottom first. I did put a lot of research into fridges. The fridge at this point is holding up the cockpit completion a little bit because I do want to build it outside of the boat mostly. So in order to fit it in place, it's not going to fit through the companionway, but it does fit through the cockpit locker, so to speak. I have had the honor of building fridges before in the boatyard, but it's not really an approach that I learned there that I would repeat. So I've made foam boxes before, and then the inner lining basically was sheets of Formica, and then the corners were caulked with some special compound. Yeah, that's how I've done it previously, but to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of that approach. I just don't trust it in the long term. The adhesion of just one tiny bit of caulking in a corner, gluing and holding it all together, aimed towards better longevity. Yet, researching how to build a fridge is challenging because there isn't a lot to find. There's many different approaches. For a long-term cruiser that is lived on and heavily used, the absolute best is to use a holding plate. The holding plate holds refrigerant, and whenever the temperature drops lower, then that gets detected by the compressor, it turns on, and it turns it into almost a brick of ice again. So imagine you have an ice block that gets renewed all the time. But by having a large volume, it also gives you a lot of time that the compressor doesn't have to run. So for a cruiser, that is ideal. It cuts down energy consumption, and it's overall a much sturdier and reliable system. Very often today, there is the very thin kind of plates, but of course those cannot hold the cold. It doesn't have any volume to it. So basically things get cooled down when the compressor is running. There is different companies that offer holding plate solutions. The one we're going for is Technotics. Their specs are pretty remarkable. It is one with an incredibly low power draw. The compressor is air-cooled, which is really nice. And I've been in discussion with the company, and of course it's handy to know the dimensions. I will heavily build the interior of our fridge knowing what size holding plate will go into it. So that's one part of the equation. There is different types of insulation. I went with the tried and tested, which is pink insulation.
What did you just come home with?
Fridge components.
Fridge components.
Yeah, we just went and picked up some foam.
Nice.
I got 2 more. That is a very common one to use. It has a pretty decent R value and mostly availability. We just drove to Home Depot and now we have it in our workshop, so I can start away with it. That was also a very important point. I anticipate that the construction of the fridge will be quite challenging, especially, of course, it has to be a custom shape. It's gonna be an interesting one. So that will be upcoming, but I have a few other things to take care of first. Now that Maya has put in the shelves, I can put in the backrests and also start including some latches. And I'm now working on getting some latches on there. They require a bit of extra work. It's not just something you screw on. But 2 are in place now. And yeah, what I had to make is a block. There's many ways to do this, but basically you just need a way to attach the latch. This one is straightforward, this part, because it just gets screwed onto where it's nicely reachable with the finger. And then you have to make this one get to where this hook is, and that's where this comes into play. And I just made a little block like that. I'll screw it in here, and this part is angled because that is just nice when you're closing it. It already engages the latch and then it hooks into there. And then
these are kind of done, eh?
Kind of done. I have to tab them in. I've got to prime and paint the parts that you made, which then means that we can paint behind the locker.
Yeah.
After it's tabbed in. But yeah, it's really coming together. Yeah, this is really nice. And the shelves are super cool because they support any weight and anything when you're leaning against them.
Nice job, Aladino. I love our saloon furniture.
Thank you. Nice work to you, too.
It's so nice.
It feels really good to see the backrest in place, and they have their hardware and it functions. The backrests will get varnished to maintain the lovely look of the wood, and the hull will get painted.
So I know that I believe it was Patrick Childress pointed out that these sorts of openings on offshore boats can be dangerous when offshore. His concern is that you can stick your finger in here and then a violent wave comes and hits you and you get thrown off balance and you break your finger off in the hole. We have these sorts of cabinet openings on Magic Carpet 1, and so I know we've gotten lots of comments from people in the past telling us that, you know, they heard that these are dangerous and to watch out, and here we are installing them again on this boat. So I think it is a valid concern, right? There's many ways that you can hurt yourself on an offshore vessel. It is a, at times, violently moving environment, and you do have to be very careful and to brace yourself and make design choices that mitigate risk wherever possible. But you can also sort of mitigate that risk yourself. For example, we do have handrails, really solid teak handrails that go here and on the other side. So anytime we're opening this, right, we're hanging on, we're bracing ourselves. If a wave hits us, we're not gonna move in such a crazy way that we could actually like break our finger off. It's something to think about. Of course, ultimately we did go this route just because it's a really elegant solution for opening and closing cabinets while getting to have the hardware on the inside, since the cushions will be here. I guess the conclusion, he's absolutely correct. There is the risk for danger, I suppose, but I think that risk can be mitigated, and that's what we're working on. Now, before we end the episode, I also need to issue an explanation and an apology for why we have no longer been crossing things off of the plan. When we came back, we drew up this beautiful plan, and the first few episodes back, we were diligent with crossing off our tasks at the end of every episode. We haven't kept up with it, and here's why. This plan has never been and was never intended to be like our actual day-to-day working plan. Aladino has his own system. You can actually see it right here if I move my laptop. Aladino has his system of blue sticky tape planning, and when things are done, then we remove the blue sticky tape. So that's really like our day-to-day form of planning.
And there's 10 new ones on the table every day.
Yes, and this was always for the videos. Now here's the thing. The videos are not in real time, they never have been, and they probably won't be because it takes me some time, I'm sorry. But because of that, usually when I film these episodes, I generally have an idea before editing. I have an idea of like where the episode will begin and end, but occasionally when I sit down to actually do the edit, I'll be like, oh, this task actually doesn't fit into this episode, or this task doesn't fit into it. So then we can't do the crossing off in real time, and so what we had to do was come back several weeks later when I was doing the edit and cross off the things that had happened in that episode. But by that time, many other things had already happened, and it just like, it was a big thing to wrap my head around, like where are we in the episodes versus real time. It was a mess, and it was causing me way more stress and way more time to keep up with this plan, which is really not how it should be. So we have our plan on the table. I think we're gonna stick with that. This, I don't think we're gonna keep up with. It's just too much, and my brain is already exploding with how much we have to do here. So, I'm sorry, but we are getting through all of these things, of course. And I mean, the other thing, of course, is like best laid plans of mice and men. This is a good blueprint, but on the day-to-day, like it really doesn't get at all the granular tasks that you need to do in order to see this refit keep moving forward. So that's that. Anyway, Thank you so much for watching. We really, really, really appreciate you being here. We are so lucky that we have the chance to make these episodes. I really enjoy making them. And I cannot wait for the day when we are back out onto the water and we can show you the fruits of all our labors, because I'm really looking forward to that moment as well. Extra big thanks to our patrons for helping to make this all possible. We wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. And in exchange for all the support that we receive on Patreon, we try to give back something extra, first of all, just by like a lot more responsivity, if that's a word. I don't think it is. We always try to respond to messages and comments over there, but we also post real-time updates every week on either Tuesday or Wednesday. So we do a video walkthrough of the boat, so you can get an idea of where we're at in real time. We can sort of talk about real-time conundrums and questions that we're having, and that's a really nice place to be able to interact more with people's feedback and everything on that. Extra big thanks to the folks whose names are now appearing on screen for always going above and beyond to make sure that Magic Carpet keeps being produced. We will see you all, as always, next Friday. Bye.